Well, the former Prime Minister Boris Johnson was allegedly bamboozled by the evidence presented to him during the pandemic. That's according to Sir Patrick Vallance, as he was giving evidence to the COVID inquiry yesterday. Vallance also blamed Rishi Sunak's Eat Out to Help Out scheme for increasing COVID deaths.
Yes, Chris Whitty gives evidence today, and tomorrow we have the thing that the government wants us to focus on, which is the autumn statement. So, Laura Trott is the newly appointed Chief Secretary to the Treasury and joins us now from Westminster. Very good morning to you.
Morning.
Good morning. Even more serious than those two comments we've already reported in the introduction to your interview is this headline. Rishi Sunak allegedly said number 10 should just let COVID deaths soar rather than impose more curbs. He apparently said, according to Dominic Cummings via Sir Patrick Vallance, Rishi thinks just let people die and that's OK. Did Rishi Sunak say that?
The government set up an independent COVID inquiry so we can learn lessons from what happened. At the time I was a backbencher, I wasn't in government, but what I saw was the government doing its best in the most uncertain of times to try to help with lives and livelihoods, because obviously both were very, very important. Now, obviously mistakes would have been made, but on the exact details, I can't comment because I wasn't there.
And also, I know, but you are in the Treasury now, and
of course.
Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, was Chancellor at the time. You're around people who would know. And my question wasn't about the inquiry, it was about specifically these words. Did he say, let people die, and that's OK? You haven't denied that he said that. You said mistakes were made.
Yes, and I also said that it's for the inquiry to look at these pieces of evidence. I should also note that the Prime Minister will be appearing in front of the inquiry very soon, I think in the next couple of weeks, and it will be for him to talk about these individual things. But
yeah,
I think
except that it's such a damaging phrase, and I'm going to ask again. You know, presumably your natural curiosity as someone in that department would say, did Rishi Sunak really say this? Are we callous enough to have uttered words like this? And what I'm hearing and what people will be hearing is no denial. Do you think other people might come forward to corroborate this? Do you think it is characteristic of the person who is now our Prime Minister that he could say about people's lives, let people die, and that's OK?
Most people at home will know Rishi Sunak, who is now our Prime Minister, but who was our Chancellor then, from when he stood up in front of them and announced support for millions of people at home for furlough to help them stay at home and still retain that money that they desperately needed. That's what they will know him for.
I'm sorry, sorry, can I just... Laura Trott, when I first read this, and it was, these are words that apparently Dominic Cummings had said that Rishi Sunak had said, and they're reported, so they're kind of third hand. I thought to myself, I don't think that's characteristic of Rishi Sunak. Right? I've met him, I've interviewed him. I find it astonishing. What I find even more astonishing now is that you're not denying it. I find it absolutely astonishing that either number 10, you are not coming out and saying, we can say categorically, you have a Prime Minister who wouldn't think of uttering those words. We know Boris Johnson lost his job, partly because of what happened during Partygate, during the pandemic. Now we have a Prime Minister who apparently was as callous. He didn't say let the bodies pile high, he said let people die. And you're not saying it didn't happen.
Are you not denying it because you're concerned that somebody will come forward to corroborate it?
No, because an independent inquiry is really, really important. If I, as a government minister, start sitting here and saying individual pieces are right or they're wrong, even if it is politically expedient for me to do that, that wouldn't allow us to do what we need to do, which is to learn the lessons from this period, which was so difficult for so many people sitting at home right now. So it is right, however uncomfortable it is for me or for anyone else as a government minister sitting here, to say, let's leave it to the inquiry, let's let evidence be heard, let's hear it in the round, and let's let them make those decisions, not me.
I suppose the problem for you guys is that remark, whether it was made or not, seems to be coming from one place that other senior figures were. For example, Boris Johnson, he is alleged to have said that older people, if they died of COVID, well, they'd had a good innings. It seems to come from a sort of a common base of callousness.
I think, well, firstly, I mean, this fits into the same category of it's not right for me to judge this now. I've got to wait for the inquiry. But I would make a general point, which is that, and I wasn't part of the government at this stage, is that this was a government who desperately, and everybody saw, was trying to help with people's lives, save people's lives, and also save their livelihoods. You know, you can see that through the furlough, through the support for business, which was given out throughout the pandemic. But I'm not trying to deny for a second, Richard, that mistakes were made. And we need to be ready for when this happens again, which is why the inquiry and letting the inquiry do its work is so important.
Do you think you've got a growing problem, though, with your Prime Minister? I mean, when Rishi Sunak took over, a YouGov poll found that 25% of those asked expected him to be good or great as Prime Minister. The last time they did that survey, it had dropped to 11%, thinking that he's doing a good or a great job. You've had all the problem with the Rwanda policy as well. Do you think he's burning out?
No, I think what we've seen in the last year is a Prime Minister taking difficult decisions, long-term decisions on behalf of the country. And he is a Prime Minister who is doing the right thing. If you think about where we were a year ago, Richard, we were in a situation where the Bank of England was predicting a huge recession. Inflation was at 11%. And it's thanks to the decisions that the Prime Minister has taken, the Chancellor has taken, we've now halved inflation. And that really matters for everybody watching your programme right now. It means that real wages are, for the past 3 months, going up faster than inflation. These are thanks to decisions that the Bank of England and the government have taken. And this is a government who will continue to take those decisions. Yeah. And you compare that with a Labour Party who want to spend £28 billion a year extra. Yeah, and that's a real choice.
Well,
that's a real choice.
You know, I don't want to take issue with someone from the Treasury, but the main reason that inflation is down is because interest rates are up. And that's because the Bank of England increased interest rates, and that's an independent decision. That's nothing to do with what the government's done.
No, both are really, really important. This is a really important element to this. And this is a decision that we're going to have to take because the government needs to not spend lots of money in that time. Otherwise, that drives up inflation and makes the Bank of England's job harder. It is the difficult decisions that have been taken in the last year that have led to inflation coming down, along with the Bank of England.
You don't want inflation to go back up again. Tax cuts can be linked to inflation because it gives us more money to spend, and that can fuel inflation. So are you ruling out tax cuts in tomorrow's autumn statement?
What we're saying, what the Prime Minister said yesterday in his speech, is that we have turned a corner as an economy. Inflation is now halved. It's not yet at 2%, but it's down to 4.6%, which is over half of what it was a year ago. What that means is now we can focus on growth. We can focus on growing the economy, increasing the supply side of the economy. So that's the productive capacity of the economy. Tax cuts are part of that, but it's important that we do it in a non-inflationary way, and that is what we will always do.
Can I just steal your wild card as we finish this? You don't have to answer this. You can say no comment if you like. Do you think that Prince Harry and Meghan should be invited to the Royal Family Christmas at Sandringham?
I think that is definitely something that I will not be commenting on, Richard, but thank you.
OK, but one thing we were just discussing before we came to your interview, Healthy Start vouchers. They have not gone up in line with inflation. Is fantastic for many people that inflation is down. Unfortunately, food price inflation is still very high, and baby milk, formula milk, up 22% over the last 2 years. Why don't you increase Healthy Start vouchers and uprate them in line with inflation?
I will point to what we have done over the last year,
I'm
Susanna,
asking specifically about Healthy Start vouchers and why you won't increase them.
But Healthy Start vouchers are given to people, you know, who will need help with food prices. And what we've done in the last year is increased benefits by 10.1%, and we made sure that everybody has got a cost of living payment of £900 who really, really needs it.
So you won't look again at Healthy Start vouchers, which currently don't even cover 1 tub of formula milk from the supermarket.
I don't want to comment on any individual measures because obviously we've got a big statement tomorrow, the autumn statement, that's going to really matter to everybody listening at home. But I wanted to point to our track record, which is helping for exactly things like this, because we know that it's been really, really tough in the last year, and that's why we've put the support in place.
Laura Trott, thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed.